if you really create a good plan and you stick to the plan after you've got it fully developed, then you're going to get there. And then the question is going to be, is this going to be sustainable? And what do I do when things happen? So that's what we're approaching now, because you are going to find challenges. They're going to be there. Yep. But the answer is not giving up here, right? The answer is not doing less. The answer is not just walking around saying, I don't care. It's not going to work out. I can't make it happen. That's not what we're going to do here. So giving up is not an option. So if I had to give you a name for this particular presentation, it would be turning obstacles into opportunities on the road to 100K. Now, what exactly does that look like? There's a few things that I do want to cover here with y'all today. The first one is going to be the reality of your journey, what's actually happening, and then common obstacles that every entrepreneur faces on this same journey when trying to become financially independent. And then the next topic we're going to talk about is how to turn your failures into opportunities, which is going to be a big deal because this is one of the reasons why I was late, because I felt like I needed to go back here and add this. I didn't want to just give you the issues that were going to be faced, but I also wanted to provide you the solutions to each one of those issues that I give you today. So that's the surprise that I gave you, is actually, and it's an actual answer, a solution you can take back with you, easily implement. And then resilience and focus, we're going to talk about staying in the game. Finally, we'll end up on 2 points, which is lessons learned or lessons applied, and your no quitting roadmap. So how are you going to make this possible? By making it tangible, writing it down, right? And making it a real thing. So here's the reality of your journey. Entrepreneurship is never linear. Our success is never just vertical. We don't go straight up. It has ups, it has downs, it has pivots, it has inclines, it has declines. It just has several points on a line. So don't think that once you start that you're just going to grow and it's going to be a linear thing and you're going to continue to travel in that direction. It's not how entrepreneurship works. It's not how life works. It's not realistic, right? So with that same concept, you have to understand this. 100K isn't built on perfection. You're not going to get every single money decision right the first time you make it. Now, you may get really close, but there's always going to be room for improvement somewhere. So what's going to happen is that your first 6 figures is going to be built more on persistence than anything else. It's all about persistence and strategy. So success isn't about you never failing. You get into that first 6 figures isn't about you not failing at something. It really is just about you not giving up. And I have to say that, like, you cannot give up on yourself. The difference between a 6-figure entrepreneur and someone who wants to quit is not talent. It's their resilience. So are you going to be resilient and persistent enough to see this through? And I would dare say that 2026, you're right here in fourth quarter, right? Why don't you start now making plans to hit the ground running in 2026 with your own 6-figure plan? If it's something that you have not accomplished yet, then I want to challenge you to start thinking about that and what's possible for you, and doing that, jumping on top of it, on top of your vision in January. So first thing I'm going to go over with you is the common obstacles that every entrepreneur faces. But like I said, I'm not just going to give you the obstacles, because we all know that we've got problems. We all know that challenges exist. But the thing that you need to know today and moving forward is, what is the solution to those problems that I'm going to come across, Cynthia? And that's the beauty of having a business coach like myself. So I'm going to give you the solutions before you ever encounter the problem, or at least one solution that you can easily implement and use, because I've been there. So let's look at the first set of issues that you're going to come up against when you're trying to get to your first 6 figures. It's definitely going to be money challenges, right? Because you don't have it. You're trying to get there. And we all know it takes money to make money. Scared money don't make money. And slow money doesn't get anything accomplished. Success loves speed. And so here are the 3 areas that are the most challenging when it comes to money and entrepreneurship when you're trying to build to a number like 6 figures. The first thing is going to be inconsistent cash flow. Now, what is cash flow, Biz Coach C? Cash flow is just how money moves throughout your business, right? And if you're watching, just say hi, give me something in the comments. And don't forget, now, any of my lives that you're watching, say hi, let me know that you're here, because I go back and I do giveaways for the people who commented and let me know that they were actually on today. So even if you don't stay on, for whatever time that you do pop on and say hi, let me know something so I can put you in a giveaway drawing for some Starbucks, some Dunkin', something good. All right. Money challenges, inconsistent cash flow. And again, what is cash flow, Biz Coach C? It is simply how money flows throughout the business. It's how your money moves. So if we have positive cash flow, that means we're making more money, or we're getting more money in that's going out in the course of a month, or whatever time frame you want to look at, but it's usually monthly. If we have negative cash flow, it is that more money is leaving out of the business than it is coming in. So having inconsistencies with that. Hey, Mabel, having inconsistencies with that. Hey, Cheryl, it is one day my cash flow was going good and I've made good money, more money than I've spent out. And then another week or so, my cash flow looks horrible because I've spent so much more than I've made. Does that balance out for me at the end of the month, or are my months in total looking like that? And if it is, then that's a major problem. But I'm going to tell you what the solution would be to that. Second money challenge that people have when they're trying to build being an entrepreneur, especially to get to six figures, is struggling to price correctly. So some of us don't like setting prices anyway because it makes us feel bad. We want to help everybody. We want to save the world. We want to do good things, right? Yes, of course we do. But sometimes we struggle with setting our price correctly because either we are guilt tripping ourselves about it, or we don't know how to properly navigate what's happening in our industry with pricing. And so we're not sure what ballpark we should set our prices in. So we set our prices according to how we feel, which is, if you are someone who does not have a lot of business savviness built into you, if savviness is a word, if you're not very business savvy, then this is something that's not going to come to you naturally, and your pricing is going to be off. And that happens to tons of entrepreneurs that I talk to. So I'm really a stickler with my clients about taking the time to set the right price. It is always worth every minute of time that you spend to do that. Third thing that's a money challenge that entrepreneurs get wrong is unexpected expenses. They're not planning well enough for those surprise dollars that have to be paid out. And they could show up in many areas. I know just this week alone, myself in business, I host events, right? And one of the venues where I hosted events came to me and said something about something that had happened at the event that I didn't even know that happened, that I might have to cover the cost of. And it's an unexpected expense, right? So I just have to be prepared for that. And thank God I am. But it's just little things like that that come up with entrepreneurs that they are not ready for, right? Because they haven't saved, because they're too busy trying to pay the bill and pay themselves. When we have to think outside of those boxes. So those 3 money challenges, that's going to be your big 3 right there. And those are usually the top 3 that keep you from moving ahead and pushing forward to making your first 6 figures. Here are the solutions to those problems, because I wouldn't be a great business coach if I didn't give you an answer, right? Or a possible solution of what you could do to make it work. Fix it. Let's fix it, make it better. So here's what we do for inconsistent cash flow. For one, I want you to offer payment plans. Give people options. Make sure you collect deposits up front, so money is starting to come in before you deliver. So any action that you could take to help you earn the dollars before you begin the delivery of the product or service is something that's going to be monumental for you as you're moving forward. So inconsistent cash flow is making sure that you can get your money, that you can collect the money when you need to collect the money, because it's got to flow out when it's got to flow out. So that means it needs to be there. It needs to be available. And how do you make sure it's available? It's by making it easier for people to pay and making sure that you're collecting up front, and collecting either as soon as or before you deliver your product or service. So change your mindset to let me deliver and let me get paid to how can I actually get someone invested in what I'm doing before I begin to make the delivery of this. That's a winning question in your mind for entrepreneurs. That's a super successful entrepreneurial mindset. Second thing I want you to do is, if you're struggling to set your prices correctly, first thing I want you to do is study the industry and compare the pricing of what's happening in the industry around you, right? Because a lot of things is happening in the industry that you're in. There's a lot of movement being made. And I don't care like how long you've been in business, what that all looks like. It is the fact that there is always something happening. And there's always usually something happening with price changes. So be very careful with that and how you're moving forward with setting the prices for the things that you need to do. Second thing that I want you to do after you study the industry is make sure that you are pricing your products and services enough to cover the cost of your business bills and pay yourself. So the business needs to pay for itself and the business needs to pay you. So a lot of people are just banking on, and they do their financial planning and strategizing on just the business paying for itself, but that's not enough, right? That is so not enough. What you've got to do is plan for the business to pay for itself, and plan for the business to pay you. That's how you set your prices. So the last thing that you're going to do is what I have on screen here. You want to find ways to increase your rate by at least 10% today. Think about that. What can you do to increase your average sales, your average purchase order, your average order? Say you usually get, when people purchase from you, they're only buying maybe $5 to $10 worth of product. How can you get that up to $15 and $20 worth of product per sale that you make? That can happen with you bundling your services. That can happen with you increasing your rate. But it's usually going to be one of those 2 ways. So set the price correctly first. Oh, yeah, Cheryl, I'm happy to repeat that. So when you're studying the industry, take a look at other businesses that are similar to yours, right? Study them, visit their websites, go to their pages for their products or services or their booking pages. Study and look and see how much they're charging for those same things that you're going to be offering. And don't just do that for one competitor. Do that for somebody maybe who's not a competitor that's really close by, but still in the industry. Hey, Nisa, what's up? So yeah, you're going to study that. And what you're going to do is you're going to find that people in your industry are going to be charging around the same price. And then it's really up to you to figure out why they're charging that price. And pricing strategy comes from a few different directions. And I've got a different training and really a different toolkit that you can download on my website about setting your price correctly and having a good pricing strategy to actually start selling before you deliver. I've got a tool on my website that you can download and do this on. I think it's the Create, Offer, and Build toolkit. But it is really good at helping you walk through this, because not only are you looking at how much they're charging, but you also considering why they're charging what they're charging. And so that pricing strategy has everything to do with, here's what they're doing. Here's the amount that they're going to have to cover the cost of goods sold and to help pay for expenses and to pay themselves out of what they've created and what they're offering somebody else. So that's the thing with comparing yourself with others in the industry and studying the prices in your industry. And I hope that that helps. The last thing that you're going to do for a money solution for unexpected expenses, you've got to save, and you've got to discipline yourself enough to save. And it's much easier said than done. Trust me. I know, I get it. I understand. I promise you, I've been there. But the sooner you do it, the better you will feel. It's going to hurt sometimes, especially in the beginning, but you're going to be fine. I promise. I promise you're going to be just fine. Open a separate savings account. Set aside at least 5% of every dollar that you make. And that's going to start your buffer fund. It's not going to look like it's a lot of money in the beginning, but the purpose of this is for it to build over time. It's not supposed to be a magic account that's going to be there for a huge amount of cushion immediately. That's not what this is for. Unexpected expenses shouldn't be arising, and they shouldn't be happening every day. You're welcome, Cheryl. You should not have unexpected expenses every day. If you do, then what we need to go back and look at is what we call your chart of accounts, which is everywhere that you have money flowing out and for what purpose. And we need to look at your statements and think about how can we reconcile these business bank statements. Oh, let me take a closer look at, here's where these withdrawals have gone. Here's where these drafts have gone. And this is either helping or hurting my business, right? So we shouldn't have a lot of unexpected expenses anyway. So the idea is for this not to be an immediately souped up account with all of this money just sitting to the side. It's an account to help you build for when times do get rough and something unexpected does come along. Those are your money solutions. Those are the biggest 3 things you could do to protect yourself against money challenges. Keep your cash flow as consistent as possible by trying to get your money up front or before you actually deliver, and make sure your expenses are in a good balance with that. So all of these work together, as you can probably tell, if you tie them all together. Because if you don't price your products correctly and you're not looking at ways to increase what's happening with the amount of money that you make over time, you have to increase it. It's not a selfish thing to think about, right? Because if we're talking about adding to your money, then there has to be money added somewhere. So increasing your rates is not a bad thing, right? It's not cheating people out of something unless you're denying them the value that they deserve. So don't feel bad about increasing your rates as long as you're delivering on your promise. And prepare for unexpected expenses. Set aside at least 5%. I'm recommending somewhere between 5 and 10%, but I'm being nice right now. So I want you to at least set aside 5% for unexpected expenses. What's the next set of challenges? This is number 2 that I would give you. So beyond the money challenges comes the marketing challenges. And any entrepreneur will tell you this. They're either not reaching the right audience if the money's not coming in, or they're not feeling very visible, or they're afraid to spend money, or they're already wasting money on ads and tools. It's one of those 3 challenges that are in marketing. So, and I won't say just wasting money either. I would include maybe wasting money and time, because marketing is a very time-consuming thing. And so part of that feeling invisible is feeling like you're not spending enough time doing what you need to do, right? So those are the marketing challenges that you have. This comes after the money challenges. How do you fix the issue of not reaching the right audience? Something simple. Here's something that you can do, and you can do it today. Join one free group. Join at least one group where your ideal clients are hanging out and share value. Do that today. Like, begin sharing value. Don't do a post with the CTA saying, click here to purchase this or click here to download that, because people are going to know that it's going to be like a bait and switch, right? We don't necessarily want to jump straight into sales when we're meeting people for the first time, especially not our target audience. They want to know, not only do you have what they need, but is it going to meet the need that they have? So join at least one free group where your ideal clients hang out and share value, like share massive value. Don't be afraid to educate. Don't be afraid to sound nerdy. Don't be afraid to look goofy, whatever. Make the post. That's the first thing that you got to do. When you're not reaching the right audience, you got to put yourself out there and test the waters to get to the right people. So identify who your target is and make it very specific, because if you try to market to everyone, then you market to no one. And I just taught this in a marketing class Monday night at a community college. I'm like, marketing does not work like that. Marketing is very strategic, which brings me to the second point, or at least the second solution. If you're feeling invisible online, post at least one tip, one story, and one result daily for the next 30 days to build consistency. And yes, that will be a challenge of posting at least up to 3 times a day, right? A tip, a story, a result. That's it. And you can schedule this out. And I've got some suggestions for you to actually plan out your content, develop it, and schedule it out. You can use, if you're on Facebook and YouTube, you can use Meta Business Suite to do this. They have a great planner on there. Canva actually does it for you. And there's so many other platforms like Sprout Social that will allow you to actually schedule your content out. Do that. Increase the amount of times that you're posting if you want to increase visibility. It's going to either be that you do that and you try to increase it organically, or you're going to do the third thing and you're going to start putting money where your mouth is. So whenever you are posting, you're going to start boosting those posts to get more attention if you're feeling invisible online. Part of that invisibility also comes when larger corporations are eating up ad dollars and they are getting a lot more visibility online than the average people. I'm telling you right now on my feed, like I'm maxed out at 5,000 followers on Facebook, right? I rarely probably see, I probably don't see 5% of the people that I'm friends with. If I don't see 5% of those people in posts, I'm looking at sponsored ads. I'm looking at recommendations for Facebook for who I should follow. That's new people. I mean, stuff like that all the time. And so the same way I'm experiencing that, you guys are experiencing that. And that could be a very good reason of why you feel invisible online. Is a lot of times the ad spend is taken up by another organization or somebody else who is a lot more active online. The algorithm is actually pushing. So if you start to feel invisible, increase the amount of times that you're posting a little more, and do that for 30 days consistently. And don't just post, but interact online, because the algorithm loves interaction. It loves to see you interacting with other posts. So do that to increase your visibility, so you'll feel seen, and you will be seen. It won't just be a feeling. Last thing, don't waste time and money on ads and tools if you don't know how to properly do it. Pause all of your paid ads if you have paid ads out there right now that are not producing. Or if you have ads running and you do not know how to read the analytics, study them, pivot, make the changes to get the results, to get the dollars in. The whole idea behind paid ads is the fact that you're going to be able to get a return on your investment. So if that's a pay per click, then we need to make sure that the ROI that we're getting is enough to cover that, to outweigh that payment per click that we're making from our business bank accounts. So master how to do the paid ads, or hire someone to do it for you that can get the results. And make sure you understand what you need that result to be. What are you selling? Or where are you adding them so you can sell something to them later? But the whole intention is revenue, is intentional revenue generating action, right? So we need to be doing things that are going to produce a sale, a dollar for us, or a new lead in the end. And until you get that right, pause what you're doing and evaluate it. And if you need to talk to me about it, let's have a free strategy session and talk about it. Third set of problems that entrepreneurs have when they're trying to make their first 6 figures are then the mindset challenges. So we got the money challenges, we got the marketing challenges, and now we've got the mindset challenges, this is what we talked about in January. Fear of failure, imposter syndrome, and our comparison of ourselves to others. Top 3 mindset challenges. And I know all of us have experienced either one of these 3 or these 3 simultaneously, right? Fear of failure. Here's how you get over that. You treat every mistake like feedback. Failure is data. And I want you to drill that in your head. Failure is not giving up. It's not that you aren't going to accomplish what you want to accomplish. It's not that you lost out. It is literal data. So treat every mistake as feedback and write down at least one lesson that you can apply from what just happened. Whether that's you losing a customer, losing a sale, coming in under your desired goals for the month. If you had an NSF fee in your business bank account, why did that happen? What was the mistake? Write it down. Write down one lesson that you can apply to that, because that's feedback. That's data for you. Just understand that. If you don't get anything else from today, understand that failure is data. Second thing with mindset solutions, the answer that I can give you from imposter syndrome is to pay more attention to yourself, right? Make a list of at least 3 wins or client results and read it to yourself daily, because it's not that you aren't producing, it's that you're doing the last thing and you're comparing yourself to others who are producing, and you're trying to walk in their shoes and do it the way that they do it, and you can't. You have to fill your own shoes and do it the way that you do it. So if you did get a sale, if you did have a customer talk about a good result that they had with you, try to list as many of those out as possible and read it back to yourself, because that wasn't any of those other people or any of those other situations that got you the win. You were the entrepreneur, the business owner in the midst of that situation, in the midst of that customer and seller relationship, right? That was you there. That was nobody else. So study what happened when you did that. Read that success back to yourself daily. And I mean, take any 3 sales, take any 3 comments, take any 3 networking opportunities, partnerships. If somebody said, it was really nice to meet you, I enjoyed talking to you today. Like, write that down. I met this person and they enjoyed meeting me. So I'm going to talk a little bit later about why this stuff, why doing it is so important and what sets you apart from other people when you do this. But let me tell you this last thing about mindset solutions. The answer here for comparing yourself to other people, spend at least 15 minutes a day being creative. Our creativity gets sucked away by media, by ads, by not prioritizing correctly, by demands that are put in our lives that we give too much priority over the things that really matter. So our creativity is stifled so many times. It's like we are suffocating with how busy life is, making the dollar, making this business work, scheduling content, planning content, trying to make sure the bank account is healthy, trying to keep our information separate, this account toward that account. So there are so many things that get in the way of our creativity. So whenever that's stifled, then we begin to look at other people and compare ourselves to their progress. Sometimes we even compare ourselves to the lack of progress that others are making and say, I see that. I'm going through that same thing. That's why I'm in a slump. Not, I see what's happening over there. How can I prevent it from happening to me? Instead of comparing myself in those situations. Challenge yourself to spend at least 15 minutes a day trying to create something before you start consuming other pieces of content, right? Strong thing for you to do. Last set of challenges I'm gonna give you guys today are, of course, those operational challenges now. So what do I mean by that? Top 3 things that entrepreneurs do to keep themselves from making their first 6 figures and keeping it is wearing too many hats, by lacking the right systems and progress and processes, and finally by overwhelming themselves and burning out. That's it. Those are your 3 operational challenges. What are the solutions to them? If you're wearing too many hats, then you definitely need to prioritize, delegate, and not just delegate or delete altogether. So write down what you're doing. And notice you're doing a lot of writing here, because you've got to know. If you're not writing this stuff down, then it's in your head and you're thinking that you're doing a lot less or a lot more than you actually are, and you're way off base. So you've got to write this down. You've got to record it so it's real. Write down what you're doing, at least in the course of a day. And then you'll want to do it the next day and the next day and the next day, because you'll start finding that there are so many things that you can let go of. You can delete it altogether. There's no need for it. Or you can delegate it, right? Yes, when we wear too many hats. I see you, Cheryl. Write down what you're doing. Circle one task to delegate or automate first. And I did this with a couple that was in a class this week that I taught. And it was a class of business taxes, and I enjoyed meeting them so much. They were an amazing couple. But when it came to actually making sure that everything was prepared, there was a task that they needed to get done that was in their heads, but they had not written it down, and they had not thought through a process with having it actually kind of leave their nervous system and leak onto a paper somewhere, and look at it in a perspective of how can we shape this and work this out so that it actually gets done and we aren't just thinking about how we're going to do it, right? So you got to take that next step, write it down. And so what I ended up doing with them is it was one major responsibility, but several areas that needed to be covered. And so they split the responsibility of which areas each person would cover. And then we set a date. Then we prioritized, okay, out of what you've decided to take on, which one of these things is more important? Now that you've told me what's more important, prioritize them in order from most important to least important. And now that you know that this is most important, tell me how soon you're going to get it done. And that's huge, huge switch over. And then, of course, as their coach, I'm going to follow up with them and make sure that they're executing and holding them accountable so they can deliver on the promise to themselves. But in essence, being a small business owner, you're going to wear a lot of hats. We can't avoid it. We can't get around it as a small business owner. You're going to wear a lot of hats. The importance of understanding which hats to take on and take off is prioritization, delegation, and deletion. And whatever you can automate, put that automation in place to save your life and to save your sanity. Because if it's something that can be done without you putting your hands on it or hiring somebody else to put their hands on it, then you need to go for it, especially if it's accurate and it's going to make you money and it's going to save you time. Second thing that I want you to do here, if your problem in operations is not having systems that you need in place and not understanding how processes or lack of processes is either hurting or helping you, then we got to zoom in on what does it actually take for things to happen in your business, for your business to move from point A to point B. So one of the ways that you can fix this is pick one repetitive task that you have in your business. It's something that has to be done in the business over and over and over in order for you to turn that profit. Set up a very simple tool, whether that's invoicing or scheduling, folks booking an appointment on Calendly, or whether that's an email that's got to go out from your website to announce new products that you post. Pick one repetitive task and set up a simple tool to handle it. Now, that tool may not be able to handle it 100% independently. You still may have to have some weigh in on it, but create it or implement that tool. But pick one repetitive task. And for this, you have to sit down and look at what is it that I'm doing in my business to get to a sale. That will help you solve your problem about the lack of systems and processes you need. And only starts with one thing. And I guarantee you, when you iron out the first system or process that helps you move forward in business, you're going to want to do more. It quickly becomes an addiction, especially when you start seeing deposits overnight. And those deposits are a result of, man, I had those emails in place and all they had to do was click and purchase. Like, seriously, man, I had that shortcut that was on my website and it just helped them get exactly to their cart. Man, they abandoned their cart, but you know what? They got an email in the next 10 minutes saying, hey, you forgot this. And they're going back into the website within 24 hours and making the purchase. That's what systems and processes look like, right? The last thing here, I'm gonna give you the solution for is your overwhelm and burnout. I want you to book at least 1 hour a week. And notice I didn't say a day. I'm gonna go easy on you with this one. Book yourself 1 hour a week, block it out. That's your CEO time, your CEO day. Pick a day during the week, block out 1 hour where you review your money, your marketing, and your systems instead of just reacting on those things daily. So do something that your future self will thank you for. And you can literally do this in an hour. You can take 20 minutes for each one of those things. But here's the kicker. If you feel like you need more than an hour to go through those three things, your money, your marketing, and your systems, then give yourself more than an hour to do it. Give yourself 2 hours to do it. If need be, give yourself an hour a day. But do what needs to be done. Because if you sit down and you study something in one time block, you're more likely to retain the information that you've learned. And you're more likely to take that data and turn it into actionable items that you can take back and improve your business with. So block out the hour because it's going to make a huge difference. It makes a huge, huge difference. And a lot of people feel like, well, man, in that hour, I could have been doing this. I could have been doing that. But if you're planning, then you get to save those hours for yourselves, which is part of the freedom of even being your own business owner anyway, right? It's having the time and the freedom and the resources and the money or the finances to do what you want to do when you want to do it. So give yourself that freedom. All right. Here is how you're going to turn any of those challenges and failures into opportunities for you. So I gave you a solution with how you could change each one of the things. So there are 4 major areas where entrepreneurs struggle. That's money, marketing, mindset, and then what? Operations. So here's how to turn those failures into opportunities. So we're just going to be reframing what's happening, right? We're taking the failures, or we're taking the data. We're taking that data. Failure is data, remember? It just tells you what doesn't work. And that's the one thing you really need to know. Even more so than what does work, you need to know what doesn't work so you know what to stay away from. So every no is literally a step closer to the right yes that you need. And that's what we love about failures in data. Pivot and don't quit. That's the first thing. Don't be so quick to jump up and give up. Just turn around, change it, adjust it, do what you need to do. Change your offer. Change the audience if you must, because sometimes that's necessary. Sometimes you're trying to sell it to the wrong people. Change the offer or change the process. So notice I didn't say necessarily change the product or service, because what you're offering is what you're offering. Unless you're doing something like drop shipping and things like that, and Amazon stores. So you can actually change the product then that you're offering, because it may not be slated for what's trending. You may not make any money off of it. But generally speaking, if you have a business and you're in a certain industry, you're focusing on certain products and services, and they're typically going to be about the same thing. So if you want to pivot and not give up, you can change the offer for what you're selling. You can change the audience that you're selling it to, or you can change the process and how it's sold. But don't just abandon the whole business and say this isn't working. It's a good example I got for you. If you are launching a new business and say the launch didn't work out like you wanted it to, it kind of flopped, right? You didn't get the sales. You didn't get the attention that you wanted online. You didn't get the traction and all of this kind of stuff. You weren't sure that you could have the paperwork and everything in place. The launch itself has failed. But now remember, failure, that same failure is data. Hey, what's up, Team Us2K? Change your offer, audience, or process. So yeah, if your business is failing, if the launch has failed, that failure is data. So how could you have changed that? What you could do is look at the attempt at what you made to build. Maybe you can just do it on a smaller scale and start out with what you're doing as a workshop, or start out with what you're doing as a pop-up instead of launching a full-scale business. Make sure that you've done the groundwork before you jump out there and try to make it happen, because it may not pop off like you're thinking it will. So instead of a full launch, if we failed, it's now become data. Maybe we could do a smaller, successful workshop instead of that. And we can build our way back up to doing what we wanted to do, and maybe changing the offer and how we present it and who we present it to the next time we come around. That's the lesson, right? Here's the second thing that you need to do to turn those failures in that data into successes. Build better systems. So we already been talking about systems a little bit. Each challenge that you face, whether it's the money, the mindset, the operations, or the marketing, each one of those things only reveals a gap in the system that you already have that exists. That's all they do. So if your invoices are late, then you need to automate your billing. And you need to figure out how you can get the correct numbers and information in that billing automation. If your leads aren't converting, then you need to tighten your sales funnel. So maybe you aren't targeting the right people, and maybe it's not the right offer, and maybe you're not communicating with them as often as you should. But these systematic issues are only showing us gaps. And that's why I say, look at failure as if it were data, because it is literally telling you what not to do. So whatever is happening that has a negative impact on your business, creating negative cash flow, or keeping you invisible, or helping or not being a help to managing it, or marketing it, or operating that business, there's a system gap somewhere. So wherever your struggle is, look at that as, if I have a struggle, it's a gap. Let me identify this gap. Let me fill it so that cash can flow, right? That's just like if you got a pipe has a hole in it that you didn't know about, and water is leaking out of it. So all of the water is not getting to the destination where you need it to go. What are you going to do? You're going to identify where the hole is. You're going to do the patchwork so that it can flow freely. Look at your business ideally in the same sense. Find the gap of where money is leaking. Fix the gap by correcting the process around where that leak is, and then things can flow through there more freely. So build better systems. If I had to leave you with a mantra, it would be this: fail fast, fix it fast, and move forward. I know a lot of people say fail fast. Yeah, definitely. You want to fail fast, and you want to fail a lot, because that gives you a lot of data. And that means you're actually working and you're doing something to get somewhere in your business. The only thing about failing fast is you have to be prepared to fix it fast and to move forward. So just because you failed and you've gotten some data that was undesirable does not mean that it's time for you to give up. It's just time for you to pivot and move forward, right? Fix it and move forward. Almost done here. Let's talk about resilience and focus now, staying in the game. Here's resilience practices that I want you to think about. And this truly does make or break the entrepreneur. Are you ready to stay in the game? All right, Team US2K says the big thing is being able to self-reflect and take an honest look at your business. I'm so serious. Like, if you, entrepreneurship will challenge you mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, intellectually. You will be challenged in every facet of your life when you're an entrepreneur. And if you do not have, if you lack the ability to self reflect and to take the steps that you need to grow, then you truly do need to rethink trying to be an entrepreneur. And it would be more of a follower mentality that you would have. And it's okay to have a 9 to 5 in that sense. It's okay to have stability. It's okay to find a job that works, that's going to pay you, if you're not willing to do the work behind the scenes to be successful. And that's where this resilience and focus is going to come in. And thank y'all so much for pointing that out. Setbacks are part of the story. It just happens, but they're not the end of the story. All right. So here's what you're going to do about those setbacks and things. And here's what you're going to do about that resilience and staying focused. There are 5 things that I'm going to give you. And I had something challenging with me. It was depending on whether I was going to share this or not, but I had something personally challenging that happened to me this week. And I was looking at it and trying to figure out what to do with the information, especially if I knew that the information may not be as desirable as I would want it to be. I know that's kind of vague, but follow me here. But what I did was I dug deeper into myself about the habits that I have personally and professionally. And I did some reflection, just like that comment was just made. I did some reflection about what I was actually doing as a person and in my role as an entrepreneur, and in different aspects and areas of my life. And here's what I thought about with the habits, right? Especially that of being a CEO. And I made it relative to making your first 6 figures. So there are certain habits in life that we have that are either going to be good for us or bad for us, right? That's what I'm getting to. Here are the good ones that you can have. So people who are on their way to making 6 figures are already doing it. They have morning routines. And those morning routines do not include them drowning themselves in what's to come in the next few hours in order to work out a plan. It's preparation, right? You can't have a morning routine without preparing for the morning. And you can't have a morning routine if it's not something that you don't do routinely. So you got to prepare and plan for it, and then you have to live it out. And whatever that morning routine is for you, what is it? They say Jeff Bezos doesn't read. I don't think any of his emails, doesn't do anything online until maybe after 8 a.m. or 9 a.m., something like that. But it's a certain time of morning, like he doesn't look at it until a certain time. There are some people who go to the gym. There are some people who read scripture. There are some people who meditate and pray. You know, there are some people who spend time with their families in the morning or with their children and get them ready to go to school. Whatever that morning routine is, make sure that it's positive and that you stick to it, because this promotes discipline. And where we don't think discipline in one area shows up in other areas of our lives, like business, it very well does. Morning routines is first, and then affirmations. Self-talk is one of the most important conversations that you'll ever have. It's how you talk to yourself on a daily basis, whether you're doing it consciously or subconsciously, whether you're doing like me and talking to yourself out loud, or whether you're also doing like me and sometimes having private conversations in your head. Those private conversations that never make it out verbally are some of the most dangerous ones, because they're often the ones that are on repeat that you don't know that you're telling yourself day to day. So it's important for you to become really familiar with how you speak to yourself, with the tone that you're speaking to yourself in, with the patience, the grace that you give yourself, the positivity that you give yourself, the realistic factors that you put in front of yourself. Be very cognizant of how you speak to yourself. And when you do speak to yourself, affirm the positive, affirm the good, affirm the accountability, affirm the wins, the trials, really every effort that you're making. Affirm yourself. And the best place that can come from is you. Accountability partners are another great one to have. There's nothing like being able to count on a person to give you the truth, especially when you need it most. And you need it in business, especially when you're trying to grow to heights like the one we're talking about today, which is building 6 figures. You have to have really good accountability partners to do that. You definitely are going to be building and developing and creating this system and these processes where you're going to earn the 6 figures, but you're not going to get to it without someone else being involved in some sort of capacity. The someone else's customers, the someone else's mentors. It is people sharing, it is partnerships, it could be anybody. But accountability partners are those people who keep you moving whether you like it or not. And you need those people in your life. Continued personal development is another serious habit that you see people who make good money have. They are continuing to develop themselves, not just professionally. So they aren't just going to the conference about what they're doing or to sell, and they're not just going to the pop-up or to the vendor event, but they're going to places where they can continue to grow as people, right? Because at the end of the day, the CEO is still a person. You're still 100% human. And life is going to be lifing no matter what you do. So continue your personal development. Don't neglect yourself for the sake of the business. Build yourself for the sake of the business. All right. The last major healthy habit that good CEOs have that make a lot of money and can hang on to that money is networking. Because the better connections we have, the more effective we can be in whatever we are doing in life. And that it just is what it is at that point. Find ways to network, whether it's courses, whether they're virtual, whether they're in person, whether it's conferences, whether it's ribbon cuttings or after hours or live after fives or community festivals. Find ways to network. It could be in your local civic organizations. It could be at your local historical sites. It could be networking happens everywhere. So don't discount it. Anywhere you are, look for an opportunity to network because that's what great CEOs do. Those are the habits that you build. All right, we're winding down here with focus strategies. So we've gone through the challenges and we've talked about what you can do for resilience, for habits, for building better systems, for turning your failures into opportunities and making sure you understand it as data. We've gone through all of that. So now what? Now comes the focus, right? Once we start designing all of those things for ourselves, now we focus. We time block, we give ourselves that time each day, and we eliminate distractions. You have to do that. You have to zoom in, right? People who have tunnel vision are people who get things done, and that's okay. You know, it's hard to get anything done when you're kind of scattered and you are in several places at one time. You're trying to do too much at one time. Focus. And this is what you do to focus. Block out your time. Protect your hours for revenue activities. Protect your hours from yourself sometimes. So make it a real thing. Block out that weekly CEO day where you review your money, marketing, and systems. This is an actual focus strategy. Time blocking is very similar to the Pomodoro technique. Work for a while, take a break for a while. Work for a while, take a break for a while. The last thing that you're going to do to focus and to have a strategy built around focus is eliminate distractions. And those distractions are things that don't move the needle or things that don't make you money or get you closer to making money in your small business or getting closer to making that first 6 figures by running your small business. Eliminate the things that don't move the needle. So time block and then actually do the work during your CEO day where you review your money, your marketing, and your systems and eliminate any distractions that don't move the needle. Today we talked all about the challenges and what you should do and what you should not do. Definitely what you should not do is give up. But what you should do is realize that there are going to be challenges and the solutions that I've given you here today are going to help you implement fixes to those like immediately. If you do them, they will keep you from leaking money in places where you shouldn't be. And if it's still something that you don't understand, then it's time to book a free strategy session with me. Book with Biz Coach C. Let's talk about what's going on. Let's identify those problems where we have those system gaps and let's stop those gaps so we can create a freer flow of money where you can set aside that 5 to 10% every month to take care of those unexpected expenses that keep popping up and robbing you. And we're not just thinking about making sure that our business survives and we're just paying the bills from it, but we're also thinking about how can we pay ourselves and retire ourselves, because that's the goal here. Thank you all for joining today. I appreciate your time, your energy. There is information available on my website. There's a download. If you click on services and go to digital products, you will see a download from Road to 100K about creating your offer to help you run through all of this and implement it so you can get to that first 100K.